Does anyone owe me an explanation or an apology? If you've wronged me, yeah, I feel like you do. I feel like you do. I feel like you need to own up to what you did wrong.
But you have to believe you did something wrong, right?
That part.
For it to be sincere.
That part.
And that sometimes may not be agreeable.
Like, did you forget that you lied on me and you tried to, hamper my career, or you tried to sully my name, you know what I mean, to people? And my name is very important to me, right? So like, did you forget that you did all these things, or is this like selective amnesia, or like, and then I hear, like yourself, I hear from other people, yeah, such and such asked about you. What they ask you about me? Like, why you? You can't. How do we fix that? Like, how do you fix that?
Why does it have to be fixed?
Because I feel like you don't think it needs to be fixed. I mean, when I say that, I mean when you specifically are put in a situation where someone has done such wrong to you personally or against you personally, and they just want to walk into the room and act like everything's fine. Like that they're just, the halo's over their head, and it's like, what? You don't think like that needs to be addressed? Maybe that's my problem. Fix me.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with you. So in that sense, I think that we have to remember that people don't respond in the same way we do or we want them to. Like, some people need to put on that face for the time frame because they're not ready to deal with it. So they might be able to phony kick it for a party.
Deal with all of the crap.
You're choosing that.
How? Okay.
You can fake kick it too.
How? That's not even
I mean, you can. You have the ability to do that. But you're just choosing not to.
Learn with that.
You're choosing, in this sense, like, look at it from like you're choosing to let their energy disrupt you. Period.
Okay.
Is it right or wrong? I'm not placing a right or wrong judgment on it. Yeah. What I'm saying is that you have an ownership there too, to not let them disrupt your energy, no matter what they're doing.
Cause see, the way I don't let them disrupt my energy, and this has happened, and
I'm not good at it.
Just be in the room, and I will act like you are a piece of air. You do not exist to me. I don't see you. I don't care if you see me. Like, I don't care. So when people, I think, like, for me, the whole phony kick thing, that's how phony kick it. You're there. I'm not going to. You're not even. You're there, but you're not there to me.
Right, you can be cordial and not friendly. Like, I mean, you can.
Yeah, that's the thing. So, like, I'll speak, I'll look around the room, and I won't acknowledge you because that's how much you don't exist to me. Like, until you ready to own up, don't make it. You gonna make it awkward for yourself because you're going, why is she over there mad? And you asking 47 people in the room why I'm mad, and I'm in the same room. Why don't you ask me why I'm mad?
Well, that's for them to fix themselves. Yes.
So I just feel like I wasn't.
It's because people don't want to have conversations. Like, I mean, they don't because people think it's a confrontation,
not a conversation,
and not a conversation. We're afraid to have conversations about things that are not as big as we think that they might be.
Yeah,
we make them bigger than they need to be.
Oh, Sabrina, you're like, and I'm like,
look, I've been in the middle of a lot of family things that have happened where yours, mine, and the truth, right?
Right.
And you've heard one person's story, you've heard the other person's story, and somewhere in the middle you can kind of figure out the facts, and everybody's made that interpretation of it. That's what the show is really about, right? That there's always some type of other interpretation of the actual facts that are happening.
Yeah.
And so we have to figure out what our lens is and question ourselves. It's not for us to make someone else question themselves. It's really like, okay, what does this mean for me?
Yeah.
Is it something that is it disruptive enough that I need to pay attention to it? And what do I need to do to make that right with myself? To protect my peace?
Yeah. I've been asked like, well, why do you
We,
want to have a conversation about this? Like, why do you want it happened so long ago? Why now?
because
And
it's
I'm
still
like,
bothering you, and you shouldn't have to diminish your own feelings. And the longer you go without addressing it, the more that it just gets shoved under the carpet, and the
absolutely.
more that everything that happens after that is a layer of that lens, right? Like you're just like stacking these things on that are blocking you from experiencing something with that person.
Yeah.
So, and you're making it more personal than it actually has to be most of the
Yeah.
time.
I'm
I
like,
see it all the time, and I would see it with family members or friends, and I'm like, just talk to them about it.
right.
Just talk. Oh my gosh, if you would just have a conversation about it,
Like,
instead you've made up some assumption about what this other person, how this person's going to respond,
I'm like, before
and
you
that may not be how they view it at
explanation.
all. And
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it. I'm saying that because I see it, because people come to me.
Yeah.
But I also have experienced it where I feel like it's not worth the conversation until it is 10 years later and you're like, wait a minute, that was way more important than I thought it was.
That's the part that I think I've spent my whole life trying to avoid those instances, right? Where you're standing at their casket, you know, in a sense, right? And you're like, or, well, whether it be real life sometimes, right? And you're missing, you know, now it's tears and then all of a sudden you're talking about old memories with other people. And then it comes up that, oh, you were wrong, you know what I'm saying, about what you thought about something. And then they're like, oh my God, we should have talked about that. Like, I wish I had talked about it. That is a conversation that I never want to have to have. So when I come at things, I do it in real time. And I know not everybody can handle things in real time. However, I'm like, sometimes, no, not sometimes, most of the time, can we just decide to put on your big girl, big boy panties, drawers, whatever, and just have the effing conversation? If there's an ought or an issue, let's discuss it and move on. And you know what I'm saying? We in a real discussion, not a you said, I did, you know what I mean, type of thing. But like a real, like, okay, from my perspective, this was it. And then when somebody points something out to you, you can't say, well, no, I didn't say that. Here's the problem. I heard you say it. So you and I are the ones with the issue, and I'm like, Marianne, like you said blah, blah, blah to me, and that really, you know, hurt my feelings or made me feel this type of way or whatever. And you're like, you're on the other end of the phone, like, I ain't say that. And you're like, nobody told me you said it. I heard it with my own 2 ears from your mouth. And now you try to convince me that that's not what happened, and now I'm wrong.
Now people think we have some beef.
Exactly.
Like, look, I feel like it's not for you to decide when someone else is ready to talk about it.
But then it's not fair for that person to show up 5 years later, like, let's have a conversation. You're like, wait a minute, flag on the play. But then it leaves me with only one other option, right? And what's that option? Okay, I could either have the conversation I've been wanting to have for 5 years, or I could just say, you know, F it and we'll just continue on this path. Which then what does that mean? That puts all of it back on me as if I was the issue. Like, you just made this all my responsibility again because now you just decided to lollygag your happy self into, you know what I'm saying, back into.
It may have taken someone that long to come to terms with, like, maybe they didn't see themselves as being in the wrong at the time, right? Like in the instance of my exes, right? I had the conversations, right? I didn't wait. I had the conversations eventually. I pulled my big girl panties up. And I had to address it because I told you I got to a point in my life where the not doing it was harder than the doing it and figuring and like at least having it off my chest that I did what I needed to do to make this right and not worry about like, what if I would have said this? What if I would have done this? Where would we have been now? I didn't want to live like that anymore. I already knew what that looked like. Yeah. And it put everything back on me and I didn't want it on me anymore.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to bring up the conversation no matter how uncomfortable or how emotional it may have felt at the time. But then I also, through that process, realized that I'm not always ready to talk about things right away either. You know, the way that we process things is different. And sometimes I need that space to figure out how I'm interpreting this first. Process
like, I'm okay with space. I just don't think your space should have to be 5 or 6 years.
3 to 5 years. Yeah, there should be a statute of limitations That's just not how humans work. So people come to the healing process. Think about alcoholics and stuff too, right? Who get to the point where they're addressing their alcoholism and they're going through the step program. And now one of those steps, and I don't know which one, is about making amends with people from your past, that you're finally realizing and owning your mistakes. And I feel like that's kind of like their healing process. You don't get to tell them what their healing process is.
Right.
Right.
What they need to do to heal. Process, don't they tell people like they don't have to accept your apology?
Absolutely. And you don't.
Like, I don't have to.
You do not have to accept someone's apology. You do not have to, in my opinion, you do not have to become friends again. Yeah. You can acknowledge that they've accepted their responsibility in it and say thank you. You know?
I remember having a conversation with a family member who had said some things and done some things, and to other people. She would never address me, but it was always, you know, the stuff, right? And so finally, we had a conversation, and at first that's how the conversation started. Well, you know, I don't know where it went wrong. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what the issue was. And I was like, well, do you want to know what the issue is? Because I want to tell you, right? Let me remind you like what the issue was.
Yeah.
And I reminded of what the issue was. And then the first thing was that denial, right? Like, no, I don't, well, maybe I don't, nope. Because let me give you these receipts, okay? Like, that this is what it was. And then, oh, well, maybe I did do that. But, you know, like, I just, you know, it was just, I don't know, it was just a situation and, you know, let's just move on. Now, in that instance, I said, okay. Because by the end of the conversation, you finally admitted like, okay, yeah, that was me. I did that. I'm okay at that point, right? Like, we don't have, like you said, we don't have to be besties. We don't have to, like, you know, I don't have to call you every day. We ain't got to go, you know, whatever. But just acknowledge that that's what you did. And I have that issue. Yeah. I have the issue with so many people. And I feel like people, somebody said to me, what was the phrase? When people talk to me, they don't want to have to go to the cross.
Mm. And you always have these like phrases, these.
I do. But at the same time, like, I don't, in my mind, and if that's something I need to work on, then fine. But in my mind, it's just, I am interested in real conversations.
Could you accept the fact that because you have been perceived as having a strong personality, would you own that, by the way?
I do. Oh, I totally do.
Okay. All right. So since you do own that, then knowing that you have a stronger personality that's pretty solid and confident, could you at least accept that other people don't feel that way about themselves and that it could be very difficult for them to bring up things to you?
Yes. I can immediately say yes to that. There is an asterisk.
And that they have to emotionally mature before they can get there?
That because that's my asterisk. My asterisk is, as much as you want me to come to you on a certain level in a certain way, I can have the same expectation of you. Yeah, I don't get that courtesy. Yeah. I don't get that same respect. So if you know that I have a strong personality, but you also know I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not going to, you know, make things up sugarcoat, so I'm not going to harm you, you know what I'm saying, in any way. And I really honestly and truly want a genuine conversation. And then if you don't like having that conversation and you blame me for not having that conversation, what am I supposed to do with that? Because you know, you would have probably said something and I would have been upset. Like,
could have.
Yeah. Somebody doesn't mean that it's always going to be like, well, Tommy, and you know what I'm saying? And
no, sometimes it just brings up the stuff all over again. Right. And you don't really resolve it.
And let's get it out. Like, because then I know where you're coming from. But if you never expressed where you're coming from and I've expressed to you where I'm coming from, yeah, I'm still the blame for how you're feeling. Okay. Like, that's not fair. And I guess I know I can't expect people to be fair. Which I think I put on myself to, like, okay, if you're not going to be fair, I'm going to go above and beyond about being fair.
I think that's why you and I get along so great, because fairness is at the core of who we are.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Like we really are looking for, how does this work for both of us? You know?
Yep.
There's in whatever situation we're in.
Yeah.
Instead of it being one-sided.
There's no malicious intent. There's no like,
yeah, exactly.
You know, I'm secretly, you know, hating on you, you know what I'm saying? And like trying to get your life, you know what I'm saying? And all the rest of this, like, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no, I don't know. And I'm okay with people dealing with their own demons and stuff like that. Just be honest about the demons that you're dealing with. Don't project them. And when I tell you you're projecting them, don't get mad at me for pointing out the obvious. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to tell you that you're wearing a red shirt. Like, I'm just supposed to be like, no,
it's blue, but I'm just like,
okay, yeah, that's purple. Like, I don't.
Well, like, friendships can be messy. Relationships are messy, and everybody claims that they want to be able to communicate well, and that communication is the most important. But it's what we work at the least sometimes. Like. Yep. Because it really does take more people. So it's like, whose responsibility is it? Is it the responsibility of the communicator to get the understanding across, to communicate clearly? Or is it the responsibility of the person receiving the message to understand what's going on, to ask questions if they don't understand? Like, whose responsibility is it?
I feel like the receiver, to me, and I know maybe there's some philosophical answer, maybe some book has to answer that, but for me personally, right now in this moment, I feel like it's the receiver. Because if I'm coming to you, or if somebody comes to me and I don't quite understand, or I'm assuming something, or I'm, you know, based on what they're saying, I'm obviously making, you know, forming my opinion or whatever the case may be. Before we end that conversation, I am going to get clarification. If I don't do nothing in this world, ain't nothing like a good understanding, okay? So, you know, even if I think I understand, I'm like, okay, so what I hear you saying is, okay, so what you're saying is this. And I'm going to repeat back to you what I hear you're saying. And at that point, you have every right to be like, no, that's not, okay, yeah, no, it is what it is, or you know what I mean? And we get clarified in. But
I've started using that too.
You do?
I do.
For you?
I feel good about it, honestly. I feel like it's a good tool to use, so that I was just having a conversation where I had to use that tool not that long ago, where someone was telling me something. Mm-hmm. We were trying to make plans. Mm-hmm. It was their responsibility to make plans with me. I made that very clear. Couldn't say it any more clear than I did. To this person. Yeah. They were supposed to be making plans with me, coordinating with me. It was their responsibility in this case. Mm-hmm. And that didn't happen. The ball kept dropping, and I said, okay, like, this isn't going to happen. And, you know, when I was having that conversation, though, and they were communicating where they were at, where they were coming from, what made them, you know, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. You know, I was open to listening to that, but I also had to say, wait a minute. So what I'm hearing is, you, in this particular case, you could take the time off work for this other event. Yeah. But you couldn't take the time off on a day when you're not working. You left yourself open to being on call on a night when we were supposed to be doing something that you committed to. Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway, that's just an example of something that recently happened, and being able to communicate what I hear from you, because mm-hmm. that's not maybe how you said it, but that's how I'm interpreting it. And being able to communicate your interpretation is also equally important of communicating the facts.
Do you know how many lies and deceptions would have been fraud? How you say frauded? Did I say it right? That's not the right word. Would have been dispelled. I'll say that. Had people just had a conversation.
Yes.
Like, had so many literally just said, wait a minute, let's clarify this. Wait, where, you know, what I'm hearing versus what you're saying, or even no, one of the things that we used to do in our group for just talking with the organization with Position of Pressure was we'd have, I encouraged them as much as I could, participants in the group, to just when you hear a lie, a rumor, or something that's an issue, right? You heard it through the grapevine, right? Or somebody's coming to you like, girl, did XYZ tell you that Susie Joe, such and such, and she feel like this about you, or she said this about you. And then you have XYZ over here telling, Tommy, okay, saying the same thing, but then telling Tommy, don't tell. I'm telling you, but don't tell. And they also told the person that told Susie Joe, and don't tell, right? Yet it was a lie. Susie Joe didn't do none of that, right? But yet now the two people that she told don't tell feel a obligation not to tell that it was XYZ that said it, right? So now XYZ has created dissension.
Just stop.
Beef.
Just stop. This is already more than it needs to be.
But that's what I'm saying. Exactly. That's
Stop
exactly
doing this to people. Stop doing this to people.
Convoluted. Like, it's so convoluted. But had you just had a conversation and somebody said,
first of all, stop putting secrets on other people to keep. Period.
You know what I'm saying?
That just happened to me recently, and I was like, I don't want to know. If I have to keep a secret from my family for the rest of my life, because these were the terms, I had to ask for the terms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I asked for the terms, like, how long do I have to keep this secret, and who am I keeping this secret from before you tell me? If I got to keep a secret from my family for like the rest of my life, no, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
No.
Nope. But that should make you question why that person, right? Because clearly now that person is creating dissension. There's no two ways about it.
And then my mind's running like, what? Yeah, my mind's running now. Like, what could it be? I'm now intrigued. I've got curiosity built up, right? Like, and now I want to know, but I don't want that responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, that's not for me to keep. I'm not a secret keeper unless it's something that I have to keep. You know what I mean? Like, I take my relationships with people and the conversations we have, the private conversations we have, very seriously.
Yeah.
I have a huge issue when people screenshot personal messages and air them to other people.
Boom.
I don't care if it's legally okay or not. To me, that's a moral code that you don't blast.
There's an asterisk to that. Your spouse and your bestie.
I will say, yes. We know that we've shared some conversations, and there is some disclaimers there, yes.
Right.
But they're used intentionally because you need to see the entire context of something.
Absolutely.
And most of the time when we share it, we're wanting to know what was my role in it, aren't we?
Exactly. Yes.
Like, could I have done something differently?
Yes. So if
did this come off the way I think it came off?
Yeah.
It's really what we're trying to do.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I definitely do it. I show you the whole thing, my part and theirs. So like, I'm not omitting pieces to make it look like, this person, like, no. Like, let's get the whole situation together.
Yeah, so these are sporadic where it is intentionally done as a learning tool where you need to share the context of something. But we're talking about people just screenshotting conversations and sharing it with other people and not caring that this was a private conversation. I cannot respect people who do that. I can't. And if I know that you're that kind of person, probably not. I'm probably going to be very careful about what I'm messaging you and putting in writing.
Yep.
Period.
And like they're like that, and then guess what? Now the other person has to what?
You don't know when I'm running for office.
Exactly. Now they have to. Now they have to defend themselves because now people are mad at them, right? And they don't even know why you're mad, and all because of somebody shared something or told something that they either weren't supposed to tell or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And they walk into a room trying to figure out why everybody mad. I have been that person so many times. I'm trying to figure out like why everybody mad at me, and nobody's saying right like what the problem is. I just it's just animosity everywhere. And then me, I'm direct. Well, what's the problem? You know what I mean? Right. And then finally somebody fesses up to some part of it or says, well, this. And I'm like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like, let's clear the air. And all of a sudden now nobody wants to clear the air. What? That's right. I'm not getting into that. No. You walked in here mad.
Right. You're in it. We're in it. Yeah.
Don't say
that was my role. That was my role in my family. Everybody has a role in their family. Call it birth order, call it whatever you want to call it. But I feel like that was my role, is me being like a little glue keeper, and I would be in the middle of everything. And I felt like I could help bring these sides together. But generally what would happen is I would hear your side, my side, right? And then I've interpreted what I feel is the truth of the matter in that. And then I would say, you know what, this could all be solved if you would just say this to this person.
Exactly. And guess
and then they stop interpreting all these things. And if I'm the one who, what?
I was saying, I'm sorry. I was saying they still won't. They still won't.
No, they won't. And if I'm the one that does it, which I've done before, then I'm the one that, then now everybody's mad at me.
Yep.
And they're not talking to each other about it, but they want to talk to me about it. So that is where I have to take my responsibility in this and say, you know what? Like, I'm not in the middle, and gossiping is not okay. And if I know that you're talking about someone else to me, I know you're talking about me to someone else.
Boom.
Period.
That part.
I don't care if you think that you're doing it because whatever. I know a few people that I know you've had a conversation about me to someone else.
Yeah.
Period.
And I'm like, and my thing is,
that wasn't in my favor.
Exactly. Which is why, and you've heard me say this a lot, if I'm going to talk about somebody, meaning when I say talk about, like mention them or whatever, I literally ask permission before I even make a statement. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, hey, do you mind if I, say this? I won't say this part, but I'll say that part. Or do you mind if I mention this, whatever? And if they say no, then fine. You know what I'm saying? And again, it's out of respect, right?
It's not your story to tell.
Exactly. And see, for me, what I feel like is at the point where I don't need anybody to say anything for me. I will tell you myself, whether I'm right, wrong, or indifferent. I will say it to you myself. You don't have to go ask nobody else. You know what I'm saying? So if you come to me and you say, well, did you say X, Y, Z? And this made me mad because and I'm like, yeah, I said it. Or no, I didn't say it. You know what I'm saying? You can take that to the bank. Like, I'm going to tell you whether I did it or not, which is why I commit crimes. Because I'm probably gonna be the person.
Me either.
Telling myself, you know what I'm saying? I'll be like, they like, what did you? I'm like, yeah, I did rob that bank.
I don't want the responsibility of keeping those secrets. No, thank you. I'm not a good criminal either.
But listen, let me tell you what happened.
I can't keep all those different stories straight. I can barely keep my own real life straight sometimes.
Girl. My mother used to tell me, you should be a lawyer because you don't know how to whisper and you don't know how to whisper. You laugh. My thinking was, I don't know how to whisper. So I got to tell you the truth that I said it because you probably heard me say it. Like, because I can't whisper.
Yeah.
So, anywho.
Yeah, I feel like it's just not our story to tell. It's for someone else to tell. If you feel like you can make a difference, it's really about connecting those people and like, hey, you should have a conversation with this person about that because it might clear some things up or facilitate that differently.
The last time I sat down with a person, and I'll just leave it here, that I was able to because it had been years. And I literally started the conversation because I knew that the person wasn't going to tell 100% of the truth. Right. So I was like, you may not recall things the same way I recall them. That's how I framed it. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, they're like, well, it was like, okay. Like, that's what it is.
Listen, I'm not the best at recalling, so and you know that.
And the sad part is,
but I will own something.
Yeah.
You like, I had a friend that also had to. I thought the relationship dissolved out of one reason, and then we were very close in high school, and then we came back around. Actually, she's the reason why I joined Facebook because I was able to reconnect with her there.
Okay.
And then eventually we've had conversations, and now we're good friends again. It's just a different relationship now, right? It's evolved over time, but I'm glad that she could tell me what it was, that we could have a conversation years later. It was definitely more than 3 to 5 years. By the time we actually got together in person, but we could still have a conversation as respectable adults and former friends, right? And say, look, like, I thought it was this is what I was feeling. And then this happened in your life. And I don't even remember that. I don't remember even doing that.
Yeah.
But if you said I did it, I know I did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to just say that. And I'm truly sorry that I don't remember it. And that was the reason why we weren't friends anymore, because I thought it was you and because of X, Y, and Z, and you thought it was me and it was X, Y, and Z. And instead of, working on that relationship, we had in having those conversations back then, we had so many things going on in our lives and we weren't in the same space anymore that I feel like we had to move apart to come back together.
That is, again, I will say it to the world below, but that is one of the reasons I love you, because you do your due diligence and you own your ish. You know
So sometimes way too much than I should. Sometimes I own other people's stuff too, but
yeah. But I'm just like, it's an excellent quality in a human being, right? Like, just to be like, okay, which makes you that much more trustworthy and like makes you that much more of a person where it's like, there's
I hope so.
Right? She's a light. See, there's it.
Being trustworthy and reliable and someone that people can count on is important to me. My character is important to me.
Yeah. So, well, we're going to put a pin right there. And we're going to come back with our next episode of Yours,
Mine, and the Truth. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.